In this lesson, we're going to be talking about proportions. Remember that a proportion is really just a ratio equaling another ratio. And if we set them equal to each other, we can use cross-multiplying to end up solving a proportion. First, we have to recognize whether we have a proportion, and if we do, we set it up like this. And if we cross-multiply, the cross products are equal to each other. That way we can take it out of a fraction, and then we can solve. So for our first situation, we are dealing with estimating a fish population. So 500 tagged rainbow trout are released into a lake. A few weeks later, a sample of 194 rainbow trout contain 28 tagged. Estimate the population of the rainbow trout in the lake to the nearest hundredth. So recognizing that we have a sample group, and then that we have something that's going to relate from that sample group to the entire population. So for our sample group, we had 28 out of the 194 were tagged. So 28 are tagged, 194 are not, or out of the 194. So that's going to be proportional to the 500 that somebody put into the lake earlier. So 28 out of 194 is going to be proportional to that 500 out of the total population. So this is our total sample. This will be our total population. This is the tagged out of our sample. This will be the tagged out of our total population. And since we have a proportion, we can cross multiply to solve. So we have one cross product. We'll do the variable one first. It really doesn't matter, but we'll do that cross product first. So 28x is going to equal the other cross product, which will be 194 times 500. And that's going to give us, well, we'll write it out, 194 times 500. So the cross products are equal to each other. We have 28x equals 194 times 500, ends up being 97,000. We'll divide both sides by 28. And x is going to be, now it's not going to work out perfect. 28 doesn't divide evenly into 97,000. But they are saying that we're trying to figure out what an estimate is. So that's kind of a good indication that it's not going to work out perfect. So when we divide this, that gets us roughly, if we round to the nearest fish, roughly gets us 3,464. And there's some decimals that go on beyond this, but we're going to round it. And then not only that, but we're going to round it to the nearest 100. So to round this to the nearest 100, there's the nearest 100. The 6 is what's going to determine whether the 4 goes up or stays the same. So 5 or higher is going to round it up. So we have approximately 3,500 rainbow trout in the lake. So just by using this proportion, we can get a rough idea that there's 3,500-ish rainbow trout in the lake. All right, so that's one example. Next example is we have a 6-foot person casting a 4-foot shadow. If a nearby tree casts a 50-foot shadow, estimate the height of the tree. So for something like this, it's good to get a visual. So what does it look like that what we're dealing with? So we have this tree, and it's casting some sort of a shadow. So there's an angle of the sun that is casting the shadow, and the shadow is 50. We don't know the height of the tree. We're assuming the height of the tree, it's standing straight up and down. And then we have a person standing nearby, and they are standing straight up and down. 6-foot person casting a 4-foot shadow. So the biggest thing that we recognize out of this is that this triangle, the smaller triangle, is similar to the bigger triangle. So if you're talking about a similar triangle, in order for stuff to be as similar, you need all the angles to pretty much match up. So the angle of the sun is going to match the angle of the sun with the person as well. So that angle from the end of the shadow straight to the sun is going to be the same angle from here going through the tree as well. And so you have an angle which makes our two triangles similar. As soon as we have that, that's actually important because our triangles are now going to be proportional. And so that the sides are going to be proportional. So whatever the scale factor is to this triangle compared to this triangle, it's going to be throughout all of the pieces. So we can set up a proportion. So we can set up, let's say the 6-foot person, the height of the person compared to the height of the tree is going to be proportional to the shadow of the person compared to the shadow of the tree. So height of the person compared to the height of the tree is proportional to the length of the shadow compared to the length of the shadow of the tree. So we have a proportion, we can cross multiply to solve. So this cross product gets us a 4x. This cross product is 6 times 5 is 30. Add the 0, it's 300. So we divide by 4. And x is going to get us 75 feet. So that's a 75-foot tree. Now we could have also compared this with, let's say we just took the person. If we had done the height of the person compared to its shadow is proportional to the height of the tree compared to its shadow. And if you notice, this cross product is 4x, so is this one. This cross product was 6 times 50, so is this one. So as long as you're consistent with your proportions, and then you use cross multiplying to solve it, you should be okay. All right, and that was dealing with proportions.